Hey everyone, I'm Ken Ingalls and welcome to my very first video here on YouTube. For years I've been hanging out mostly on Twitter where I've been discussing the salary cap of the Green Bay Packers. I really enjoy diving into the accounting intricacies of the NFL world of the team that I love so much. And really my goal is to help other Packers fans understand the salary cap in a way that's relatable and just simply makes sense. I'm going to continue with Twitter. You can follow me here at Ken Ingalls. That's not going away at all. But I'm also going to start making videos here from time to time where I can spend a little bit more time diving deeper into topics. I can open up my spreadsheets and kind of show you the details, which can sometimes be hard to summarize on Twitter alone. So here I am. I'm doing the thing. And today I'm going to discuss this bad boy that you see here. This is my 2026 Green Bay Packers salary cap breakdown. I plan on going over every single one of these numbers, jumping into my spreadsheets when I can and show you how I come up with these. And let's start at the top. Let's do it. Let's go. So the first thing you really need to understand, like in order to understand the salary cap, I like to say you first need to understand their wallet. How much are you going to be able to spend, right? And so the very top line you see 279 million and change. That is last year's salary cap allocation, meaning the amount that the league gives to every single team that is exactly the same. Last year is 279 million. But we all know the salary cap goes up every year. And so right now I've got 23.8 million as the increase. And if you combine that, it gets to 303 million for an 8.5% increase. The league recently announced that the cap number is going to be between 301 and 305 and change. And I've had that 303 number for a while and I feel pretty good about it. We'll see where it lands. And of course, once the official number comes, the numbers will come up and down along with it. And that's really, when you're talking about the salary cap across all the teams, that's where the similarities kind of stop between all 32 teams, because every other number on this list, maybe except for one, will be different, specific for, in this case, the Green Bay Packers. Every other team is going to have different circumstances, different numbers. Starting right now with the carryover, right? Every team, if you don't spend every single dollar of your salary cap, and it's very hard to do, it's almost impossible to get down to zero, that amount can roll over to the next year. So I had the Packers ending at $8.7 million of unused space at 2025 that then they will now carry over into 2026, kind of increasing their wallet, what they can spend this year on players. Now we get the cap adjustments, and this is where details start. You might not understand this as much. It might not be something that's in conversation as much. So I can kind of show you where I get this number of just over $1 million. There's a few things that I have in here. First off, Elton Jenkins. He had a workout bonus, like a lot of veteran players do in Green Bay. However, as we know, he did a hold-out situation last year, so he wasn't around for OTAs. So he didn't get paid that money. He didn't earn it. However, it still counted on the salary cap last year. So what this is, it's really a credit or a refund in 2026. And a lot of times these things work like year over year. So it'll count last year and we'll get the credit for it this year. Similar with the next two guys. These were players who were undrafted free agents who had $100,000 guaranteed each in their contracts, but they were released. So they had the guarantee and they were released. So what happens is they immediately in 2025, the Packers had to eat $100,000 a piece on these players as dead cap. However, there's a concept called an offset, meaning that if those players were to earn salary with the team or elsewhere, they could get a kind of credit for that. So both of these guys ended up on the Packers practice squad, earned over $100,000. So we each get a credit for each of those players for $100,000. The next one is per game bonuses not earned. And to really go into this, I have a spreadsheet here from 2025 of the end of the season of all the players per game bonuses. And you'll see, and we won't go into all of this by any means, but there's a lot going on here and we can maybe save that for another video. But what we have here is, let's look at Elton Jenkins as an example. Elton Jenkins had $600,000 of per game bonuses in total, meaning he had every game he was active on the roster playing, he would make $35,294 and some pennies. And this is evaluated as likely to be earned. All of it was because he played all the games in 2024 or 2025. It's assumed that he will also play all 17 games. So it's all likely to be earned in this kind of bucket here. However, we know he did not play 17 games. He got injured halfway through the season and missed 8 games. Meaning that of this 600,000, he only earned 317K in change. However, the salary cap hit was still 600,000. So we get that credit for the amount that he didn't actually earn in the following year, 282K. Similar situation with Josh Jacobs missing some time. And Xavier McKinney, unfortunately, held out of that week 18 game. Missed out of $11,000 that we get as a credit on the salary cap for 2026. So adding these back all up, where we are with, that's where we get to the $1 million of adjustment. Then there's an off-season workout charge. And really what this is, I could show you the math here. It's a placeholder that the league mandates that every team put in. Players get paid for showing up to OTAs, and the math that you see here in the formula at the top, $340 times 4 days a week times 8 weeks for 90 players. If every single player is there, they will, get another almost $1 million of salary cap charge for that, and that is put as a placeholder as kind of an adjustment at this point of the off season, and then after OTAs, this amount comes off and replaced with the actual amounts paid. We'll talk about that at another time. But really, if you add all those up together, we're in a situation where the Packers' wallet is $311.8 million if with rounding. So they can have a total of 300, like that can't increase. That is the maximum is going to be this season. So now we need to start looking at player contracts and the costs that go against that. And the first thing is all the contracts that we have on the team. Right now, here's my list, and by no means am I going to go into this spreadsheet today, but here's all 66 players under contract today. But for the purposes of the offseason, we only count the base salaries for the top 51 players. And the reason that is done is so that you don't have to make salary cap room for all 90 players that can be on your roster in the offseason. Because we know that once the regular season comes, you can only have 53 players on your active roster. And so they don't make you cover the minimum salaries for all these guys. So how we calculate this is we take every single contract for the year and we just rank them from top to bottom. So Jordan Love's at the top. And guys like Colin Oliver and John Williams, draft picks from last year, late round draft picks, are right near the bottom. Keep an eye on them. They're going to pop up later once we start adding some other names, that like 49 and 50. So right at 51, this is where we kind of snap the chalk line and we get $297 million. That's the number you see right here. So we're only counting the top 51 players. Then we get into dead money. And dead money can mean a lot of different things depending on the context and how we're discussing it. For what we're seeing here, this $17 million are amounts that the Packers previously paid to players who are no longer here. But we're not counted on the salary cap yet. We'll get into that maybe in future videos, but specifically, if we want to break it down, you've got 10 guys who are undrafted free agents who have remaining pieces of their signing bonuses that were not capped last year that we have to take into account this year. We had Micah Robinson, a draft pick, who had a little bit larger of a signing bonus compared to the undrafted guys. But this is 3 years of this $113,000 that we have to account for. And the lion's share really comes back to Kenny Clark, who we all know was traded as part of the deal for Micah Parsons to Dallas. There was a lot of money still sitting on the books for amounts that he was already paid. Like, these amounts were already in his bank account. when the Packers traded him. We just haven't capped him yet. So in this season, 2026, there's still $8.75 million of his signing bonus from 2024. And there's remaining restructure bonuses from 2022 and 2023 left over that are about 8.3 million. So over 17 million alone is just for what was remaining on Kenny Clark. This doesn't even discuss what was part of the 2025 dead cap, which was enormous. But the fact, Kenny Clark being part of that deal was, there was a lot of dead cap in there, but for the purposes of what we're looking at today, he's the majority of the 17 million. So we have to count it on the cap. Even though those guys aren't here, we have to count for that 17 million that for accounting rules. So we have the 297 plus the 17 gets us a 314.4. But our wallet's only 311.8. So I have the Packers at 2.6 over the cap right now. 20 days before the start of the league year. And so if you were to look at this number, this 2.6, and you were to go to like over the cap or Spotrac and see what their number is, it'll be similar. There might be higher or lower for various reasons. Won't get into that right now. That's kind of where their number stops. But you can see I've got like 2/3 of the page left to discuss. There's other things that we know are going to happen. And so I like to think about those as well to get to a true effective number, because these costs are coming. They're unavoidable. We know we need to plan for them. The Packers need to plan for them. So I like to show them and discuss them here. The next thing is exclusive rights free agents. These are guys who are free agents at the end of 2025 who have less than 3 accrued seasons to their name. That would be Bo Melton, Lucida Smith, Donovan Jennings, and Kamal Hadden. These guys are 100% under team control if the Packers want to bring them back, and they almost absolutely will bring them back. So factoring them in here. Notice as these guys get added, they're pushing the cheaper guys further down the list. So remember when I said Colin Oliver and John Williams were hanging out above the line? Now they're below the line. So we're not counting their base salaries anymore, but we're still counting their signing bonuses because, again, that top 51 rule says we only exclude the base salary amounts. And so the math changes because as these guys are knocking other guys off the list, like every time a player is added, you're knocking a guy making $1 million off the list. So that the true cost is less. If we go back here, you see the cost of those 4 players is 4.2 million. But every time we add a player, that offset kicks in. So the net cost is only $470K. But that's something we need to think about. And the Packers are absolutely going to do that, but they need to plan for it. So now we're at $3.17 million over the cap at the league year deadline, because those exclusive rights tenders have to happen by the league deadline. So what is the league deadline? League deadline this year is March 11th. And so again, that's 20 days away. The Packers have to be in a net positive salary cap scenario. They cannot be under the cap at this point. Otherwise, they'll be in violation of the league and there'll be penalties and whatnot. So moves will have to be made between now and March 11th so that they can get cap compliant. And that's also coincidentally when free agency starts and when trades are allowed to open up as well. We all know the draft is coming. Packers have 8 draft picks this year. Don't have a first, but thanks to Micah Parsons, and that is not a bad thing. But going back to this list here, we start adding in those draft picks. Again, they're pushing guys further and further down the list as we feather those picks in. And even the late round guys, they're not even in the top 51, but again, they're going to have signing bonuses. So that will still count against the salary cap, but their base salaries won't. Again, Colin Oliver and John Williams now, they're not even within a handful anymore of even counting on the top 51, even though that they were kind of right at that line before we started bringing in kind of these guys that we know are going to happen, or that we know are going to be in the building. So going back, the cost of the draft will only be about $1.3 million. In years past, this number would be closer to 5 or 6 million. because of having one or multiple first-round draft picks. So it really gets us to a point where 4.5 million over the cap after the draft. But we're not done, because after the draft is when the actual football season starts, and there are going to be actual football costs of doing business. I've got a $6 million piggy bank in here for in-season emergencies, injuries. Remember, if a player's injured, we still pay for them. They still get paid and they count on the cap. That $6 million is a very low number. Like, I could put 10 in there and still feel, it could be higher. But, just trying to show like bare minimum, bare bones, what they kind of need to set aside. $6 million is really kind of pushing it there for me. The practice squad, again, practice squad players don't get paid as much as active roster guys, but it's a lot and they add up. Like right here, it's just under $4 million. If we go into the math, you can see here, I just have minimum salary guys. The minimum you can make on the practice squad, if you're like not a veteran, is $13,750 a week. Times 18 weeks, times 16 spots on the practice squad, that gets us just under $4 million. Again, so you when you think about the costs, like, it's not just about freeing up this 4.4. There's other costs that are going to be coming down the road. Also, once the regular season comes, we stop only counting the top 51 players and we count all players up to the 53 on the active roster, plus the practice squad and things here. So, but this line right here, this $2 million, that's the cost of minimum salary players at spots number 52 and 53 on the active roster, undrafted free agent type players. This 1.8 is a large number, and it's kind of the opposite of what we saw on when we talked about the adjustments for per game bonuses that players didn't get last year. This is kind of the opposite. And so breaking this down into for 2026, again, there's a lot going on here. What you need to know is there are a lot of players, veteran players, who have large per game bonuses in their contracts, meaning they get paid these amounts if they play the games. However, we all know 2025 was a very injury riddled season. So a lot of their key players missed a lot of games. And so that likely to be earned formula that we talked about earlier, it skews things a lot. So like, let's look at Christian Watson as an example. He's got 1.825 million of per game bonuses, over $100,000 per game that he plays in 2026. However, he only played 11 games last year, meaning of that 1.8, 644K is not likely to be earned. So it's not counted on the salary cap right now. However, if he does play more than 11 games, that amount will count against the salary cap this year. It's a very specific rule, and it's only for per game bonuses, like when it comes around incentives and things, where things that are not likely to be earned can actually count this year. So if I were to accelerate this season into week 17, you see all these amounts get shoved into this green column, which counts in the salary cap formula on my other spreadsheet pages. This is $1.8 million, folks. There are lots of players who, if they remain healthy, are going to cost more in December than they do now. And that's a good thing, right? We want them to be healthy. We want them to be playing. But it's something that the Packers need to plan for and set aside. This last piece is just an elevation. It's an estimate. What it does is it takes the, assuming everyone's a minimum salaried practice squad player and they've got no years of experience, it takes the difference of salary that they would be making if they were elevated from the practice squad onto game day. And for 17 games, 2 players a game. And then I only take 60% of that amount, because the Packers don't elevate 2 players every single game, every single year. And it's just kind of a better estimate than doing the full amount. So, it gives the amount that, okay, reasonably looking at the past couple of years of history, they're right around 50-60% of the time they're using their maximum elevation. So if we add all that up, there's another 14.5 million that we need to account for just for basic getting through the season. So if you really look at it, of that 311.8 at the very top here that the Packers have in their wallet, I'm saying that they are over committed right now by $19 million. They need to find $19 million more of space. So really, when I think about this, what does all this mean, right? They can't do nothing, and they're not going to do nothing. That's not their job. They're not complacent. We know that they have to make moves in order to, at least at a bare minimum, just with the guys that they have, free up $20 million so that they can kind of get through the season. What if they want to add more guys? What if they want to do extensions? What if they want to play in free agency? Good question. Sounds like a great topic for maybe my second video. So that's where we leave it today. What'd you think? Did you have fun? Did you learn something? I had fun. This was new for me. I really would love to know what you think about me diving in this way here on YouTube. For those of you who found this video through my following on Twitter, feel free to subscribe. It's the same, Ken Ingalls over here on YouTube. I hear that helps the algorithm and the formula. For those who may have just wandered upon my page here on YouTube, welcome. Feel free to hang out on Twitter as well. I'll be there, continuing into the salary cap of the Packers for the next foreseeable future, and for the next 20 days and what they're going to do. So thanks for watching. See you next time. I had a blast. Thank you and goodbye.